He drained the brake fluid. The investigator said it casually, like he was reporting the weather. For a second, I couldn't breathe. My mind stuttered, trying to make sense of the words, but those 5 words were a death sentence. My daughter was 20 feet away, fighting for her life, and the man who put her there? He didn't just want my company. He wanted my family gone. Standing in the sterile white corridor of the hospital, the smell of antiseptic burned my nostrils. It was the smell of fear. My daughter Lily was in a room just down the hall, broken, silent, hooked up to machines that breathed for her. They called it an accident. A rainy night, slick roads. I knew it was a lie. My gut screamed the truth, and I knew who was behind it. Alex, my son-in-law, the man I handed my life's work to. He wanted my legacy, and he was willing to kill for it. If you're listening to this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. It helps more than you might think. Let me back up. Let me tell you how a monster slips into your life wearing a $1,000 suit and a smile that could disarm nations. My name is Arthur Vance. I built Vance Industries from nothing. Dirt under my nails. 40 years of sacrifice. It was my fortress. It was Lily's future. I thought I was building a dynasty. I didn't realize I was opening the gates for a conqueror. Then Alex Thorne appeared. He was sharp, ambitious. He had eyes that seemed to see everything, and a confidence that filled the room. He moved like he owned the world. I saw a younger version of myself in him, hungry, driven. He courted Lily with an intensity that swept us all off our feet. Expensive dinners, spontaneous trips to Paris, grand gestures that felt torn from a movie script. He wasn't just charming, he was mesmerizing. My wife Eleanor adored him. She'd watch them together, her hand resting lightly on her pearl necklace, a habit she had when she was happy. He treats her like royalty, Arthur, she'd say, her eyes shining. He's the one. I felt the same. He seemed perfect. Too perfect, perhaps. But when you want the best for your daughter, you ignore the little warning bells ringing in the back of your head, the small doubts, the tiny inconsistencies. I didn't just ignore them. I silenced them completely. A year later, they were married. It was the event of the season, a lavish ceremony at our estate, crystal chandeliers, an orchestra playing Vivaldi. The smell of roses filled the air. Lily was radiant, a vision in white lace, pure happiness. Alex stood tall, handsome, the picture of a devoted husband. I thought we had secured the future. I thought she was safe. I raised a glass of champagne. The bubbles felt like hope rising in my chest. To the future, I toasted, clapping Alex on the back. May it be bright. He turned. He looked me straight in the eye. His grip on the champagne flute was tight, his knuckles white. It will be, Arthur, he said, his voice low, intense, brighter than you can imagine. His words felt warm then, a promise. Now, they freeze my blood. I didn't see the threat hidden behind the promise. Alex wasn't just interested in Lily. He was fascinated by Vance Industries, obsessed even. He spent hours in my study, grilling me about contracts, logistics, investments. At first I was impressed. He had a mind for strategy I hadn't seen in years. He absorbed information like a sponge. I thought he was learning the ropes. I didn't realize he was measuring me for a coffin. I was nearing retirement. I was tired. The fight had started to leave me. I was ready to pass the torch. I started bringing him into high-level meetings, introducing him to our most important clients. I trusted him implicitly. I gave him access to everything, the keys to the kingdom. It was the biggest mistake of my life, and I was about to pay the price. Then came the big decision. I was turning 65. It was time. I sat Alex down in my office, the corner office overlooking the city skyline. The view I had earned over 4 decades. Alex, I said, sliding a thick leather portfolio across the mahogany desk. I'm making you COO, Chief Operating Officer. One day this will all be yours and Lily's. I expected gratitude, excitement, a handshake, maybe even a hint of humility. What I got was silence, cold, calculating silence. Alex didn't smile. He just leaned back in the plush leather chair. My chair. He picked up the portfolio, weighing it in his hands, like he was judging if it was enough. He didn't even open it. COBO, he repeated. His voice was flat, empty. That's very generous, Arthur. He adjusted his platinum cufflinks, a nervous habit I'd noticed. A tell. He only did it when he was calculating his next move. Then he dropped the bomb. But I was hoping for CEO. I laughed. I actually laughed. A short, sharp bark of a laugh. I thought it was a joke. A bold, slightly arrogant joke. It wasn't. The smile stayed fixed on his face, but his eyes were dead serious, like a shark. CEO? Alex, I'm still here, I said, the laughter dying in my throat, the warmth leaving the room. I know, he replied. His gaze didn't waver. It was unsettling. But the company needs new blood. Real leadership. He stood up, walking over to the window, looking down at the city like he already owned it. You've done your part, Arthur, he said, his back to me. It's time to step aside. The audacity stunned me. This wasn't the charming young man who brought Eleanor orchids. This wasn't the man who held my daughter's hand at the altar. This was someone else. Someone ruthless. Someone hungry. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. For the first time I saw the monster behind the mask, the predator beneath the polished surface. And the real betrayal was still waiting in the shadows. I pushed back, of course. I told him he wasn't ready, that he needed more experience. He didn't argue. He didn't fight. He just turned around and nodded slowly. That cold, unsettling smile returned to his lips. Of course, Arthur, he said, his voice smooth as silk. Whatever you think is best. He walked out of the office without another word. I should have known then. He wasn't conceding. He was reloading. Things changed after that. Subtly at first, like a slow poison seeping into the groundwater. He started making decisions without consulting me. Small ones, seemingly insignificant. Changing suppliers, adjusting schedules, restructuring departments. All under the guise of efficiency. But it wasn't about efficiency. It was about control. He was testing the boundaries. And I let him. I was too trusting, too blind. I started noticing the absences, the empty desks. I ran into Robert Chen in the hallway. Robert was my VP of Finance for 20 years. A good man, loyal. He always wore bow ties, a quirky habit that made everyone smile. He was carrying a cardboard box. His bow tie was missing. Robert, what's going on? I asked, confused. The hallway suddenly felt too quiet. He stopped. His face was pale, strained. He avoided my eyes. He let me go, Arthur, Robert said, his voice barely a whisper. Who? Alex? I was stunned. Why? You're the best financial officer this company has ever had. Robert leaned in close. His voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. He said my methods were antiquated. He's cleaning house, Arthur. Anyone loyal to you is a liability. He looked around nervously, as if expecting Alex to appear out of the shadows. Be careful, Arthur, Robert warned, his eyes filled with fear. He's not restructuring. He's conquering. He walked away, leaving me alone in the hallway. The silence was deafening. Robert was gone. Who was next? Me? Clients started calling him directly, bypassing me entirely. My phone stopped ringing. My calendar emptied out. I walked into a board meeting, and the conversation stopped dead. Alex was at the head of the table, in my seat. Arthur, he said, not bothering to stand up. We were just wrapping up. We didn't want to bother you. I became a ghost in my own company, haunting the hallways of the empire I built. I felt obsolete, invisible. The roar of the business I loved had become a distant hum. I complained to Eleanor. We were sitting on the patio. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, but all I felt was gray. He's overstepping, Ella, I said, swirling the ice in my scotch. He's pushing me out. He fired Robert Chen. She dismissed my concerns. She always did when it came to Alex. She was still under his spell. Robert was getting old, Arthur, she said, patting my hand. Alex is just eager. He wants to impress you. You should be proud. Relax. Enjoy your retirement. Retirement. I was being erased. I wanted to believe her, but a cold dread started growing in the pit of my stomach. A dread that tasted like betrayal. Lily noticed it too. The change in Alex wasn't just professional. It was personal. The grand gestures stopped. The spontaneous trips became meticulously planned business excursions. Alex was always busy. Late nights. Weekends spent on conference calls. He was there, but he wasn't present. He was attentive, but not affectionate. Lily came to me one afternoon. She looked tired, small. The radiance she had on her wedding day was gone, replaced by a dull ache of loneliness. Dad, I never see him, she confessed, twisting a lock of her hair around her finger. A habit she had since she was a child. It's like I'm married to a stranger. She tried to talk to him, to connect with him. He shut her down. You wouldn't understand, Lily. This is business. he'd say, his tone dismissive, cold, condescending. She felt isolated. I felt helpless. We were both caught in the intricate web he was spinning, a web designed to strangle us both. Then came the night that shattered everything. It was late.
Past midnight.
The rain lashed against the windows of our study. A storm was brewing, outside and inside. My phone buzzed on the desk. It was Lily. I answered, expecting her usual cheerful greeting. Instead, I heard sobbing, raw, guttural sobbing, the sound of pure terror. "Lily, what's wrong?" I asked, sitting up straighter. A primal fear gripped my chest. Eleanor looked up from her book, her face etched with concern. She knew something was terribly wrong. Lily was whispering, frantic, terrified. "Dad, I found something," she choked out. "Something terrible." Her voice trembled, barely audible over the storm. "What is it, sweetheart? Tell me." "Slow down," I urged, my grip tightening on the phone. "Alex, he has a second phone," she whispered, the words tumbling out in a rush. "I found it hidden in his study, in a locked drawer. I shouldn't have looked, but he's been so cold." My blood ran cold. A second phone. Why would he need a second phone? "What was on it, Lily?" I asked, dreading the answer. "Messages, bank statements." "I don't understand," she cried. "There's so much money, Dad. Millions. Tens of millions. Moving in and out of accounts I'd never heard of. Millions. Where was the money going? Where are you?" I demanded, already reaching for my car keys. My heart pounded a frantic rhythm against my ribs. "Embezzlement. Fraud. I'm at home. He's out." "Another business dinner," she said, the words laced with bitterness. I took pictures of everything. The accounts. The messages. The messages. What did they say? "Dad, they were awful," she whispered, her voice breaking. "He was talking about us. About you. He called you obsolete."
He said I was collateral.
"Collateral?" My daughter. A rage, hot and primal, surged through me. "I'm scared, Dad. He's not who we think he is. He's dangerous." The mask hadn't just slipped. It had fallen off completely. "Stay there. Lock the doors." "I'm coming over right now," I said, my voice tight with fear. I needed to protect her. I wanted to get my hands on him. "No," she insisted, her voice suddenly firm, resolute. "I need to get out of here. I can't face him right now. I don't want him to know I know. If he finds out—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. "I'm going to the lake house," she decided. "We'll talk in the morning. I'll send you the pictures when I get there." The lake house, remote, secluded, safe. It was our sanctuary. "All right, drive carefully. The roads are bad. The rain is heavy," I warned, my anxiety knotting in my stomach. "Call me the second you get there. Promise me." "I promise, Dad. I love you. I love you too, sweetheart." That was the last time I heard her voice. The call never came. I waited. 1 hour, 2 hours. The silence stretched, suffocating. Every tick of the grandfather clock echoed like a gunshot in the quiet house, a hammer blow against my nerves. I called her phone, straight to voicemail. Again and again, panic set in. Cold and sharp, a primal fear that gripped my throat and refused to let go. I paced the study, wearing a groove in the Persian rug. I called Alex. My hand shook as I dialed his number. I needed to know where he was. He answered on the 5th ring. He sounded groggy, annoyed. "Arthur, do you know what time it is?" "Where's Lily?" I demanded, my voice shaking with a mixture of fear and fury. "I don't know, Arthur," he mumbled, dismissive. "We had a disagreement. She probably went for a drive to cool off." "She's being dramatic." "The disagreement? He didn't even know she was gone. Or maybe he did." The thought hit me like a physical blow. What if he knew she found the phone? What if he came home early? What if he tried to stop her? At 3 a.m., the doorbell rang, the sound jarring in the quiet night. I knew before I opened the door. I felt it in my bones. A cold certainty. 2 police officers stood on our doorstep. Rain dripped from their uniforms. Their faces were grim, expressionless, the faces of messengers of death. Mr. Vance? The taller one asked, his voice monotone, rehearsed. There's been an accident. The world tilted on its axis. I couldn't breathe. The air rushed out of my lungs. I gripped the doorframe, my knuckles white. Behind me I heard a shattering sound, and then Eleanor screamed, a scream that pierced the quiet, a primal scream of grief, a scream that still haunts my dreams. They found her car wrapped around an ancient oak tree on the winding road to the lake house. The road she knew like the back of her hand. The hospital was a blur of fluorescent lights and hushed whispers. The sterile environment felt hostile, threatening. Lily was rushed into emergency surgery. We waited. Hours bled into days. Time lost all meaning. We sat in the sterile white waiting room, the silence broken only by the sound of Eleanor's quiet sobbing. It was a nightmare from which I couldn't wake up. Alex arrived an hour later, his suit impeccable. Not a hair out of place, his face a mask of grief. He played the distraught husband flawlessly. He embraced Eleanor, his arms wrapping around her trembling shoulders. She clung to him, desperate for comfort. He held her hair. She sobbed into his expensive suit jacket. He turned to me, his expression one of profound sorrow. He grasped my hand, his grip tight. She's a fighter, Arthur, he said, his voice choked with emotion. She'll pull through. We have to believe that. He was good. He was very good. But I knew. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Past the mask, past the performance, his eyes were dry. No redness, no swelling. He was performing. He was playing a role. A wave of nausea washed over me. I pulled my hand away from his touch. His skin felt cold, reptilian, he noticed. His eyes narrowed, almost imperceptibly. A flicker of annoyance, anger, but the mask remained firmly in place. He knew I suspected something. A silent war had begun. The surgeon finally emerged. Dr. Ramirez, a woman with kind eyes and a weary expression. She pulled off her surgical cap, her dark hair escaping in messy strands. She looked exhausted. She delivered the news that shattered our already broken world. She's alive, she said, her voice soft but cautious. But the injuries are extensive. Severe head trauma. Internal bleeding. We've stabilized her, but... She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. But what? I demanded, my voice hoarse. She's in a medically induced coma, she explained. We don't know when, or if she will wake up. If that single word hung in the air like a guillotine, a death sentence disguised as hope. I saw her, my beautiful girl, lying motionless under a tangle of wires and tubes. Machines beeped a steady rhythm around her, the soundtrack of our despair, breathing for her, keeping her alive. Bruises marred her pale face. Her eyes swollen shut. She looked so small, so fragile like a broken doll. I reached out and took her hand, her skin cold to the touch. I pressed her fingers lightly, praying for a response, a twitch, anything. There was nothing. Silence. Sweetheart, Daddy is here, I whispered, my voice thick with unshed tears. I will never leave you. You have to fight. Come back from this darkness. Tears streamed down my face, taut and burning. If I could give her my breath, I would. I would give my life for her. Eleanor sat beside me, her hand resting on Lily's forehead, her face a canvas of grief. We were shattered, but beneath the grief, a cold, hard rage settled in my chest. Someone did this to her, and I was going to make them pay. Days turned into weeks. Lily remained suspended between life and death, a sleeping beauty trapped in a nightmare. I practically lived at the hospital, keeping a silent vigil by her bedside. Holding her hand, hoping she could hear me, Alex visited sporadically. Always brief, always rushed. He had more important things to do. He is running the company now. My company. He had already moved into my office, claiming the throne before the king was even dead. He was consolidating his power. I didn't have the strength to fight him. Not yet. My focus was on Lily, but the rage simmered beneath the surface, waiting to erupt, The police investigation was swift and superficial. They ruled it a single car accident. Driver fatigue, slick roads, loss of control. It was too neat, too convenient. A tidy little package wrapped up with a bow, case closed. I knew Lily. She was a meticulous driver, cautious. It didn't add up. I needed answers. I needed the truth. The truth Lily was trying to tell me before she was silenced. I needed justice. That's when I met Detective Miller, a grizzled veteran with a cynical demeanor and a penchant for cheap cigars. He chewed on the end of his cigar constantly. He was assigned to the case review, a formality, a rubber stamp. I went to see him at the precinct. The smell of stale coffee and desperation hung heavy in the air. I laid out my suspicions about Alex, the timing, the behavior, the motive, Lily's fear. He listened patiently, his face impassive, like a stone wall. He had heard it all before. "Mr. Vance," Miller said, leaning back in his squeaky leather chair. The cigar clamped between his teeth. "I understand your grief. I've seen it 100 times. But we need evidence, hard facts. Not theories, not gut feelings." He puffed on the cigar, the smoke curling towards the ceiling. "Right now," he continued, his tone dismissive, bored even. "All the evidence points to an accident." I felt a surge of frustration. He wasn't listening. He wasn't seeing the truth. "Then you're not looking hard enough," I snapped, slamming my fist on his desk. The sound echoed in the cramped office. Miller raised a bushy eyebrow, unimpressed. "Oh yeah? Tell me where to look?" I told him about the phone call, the secret phone, the bank statements, the millions of dollars, the embezzlement. He scribbled some notes in a battered notebook, skepticism etched on his face. "We'll look into it," he promised, his tone suggesting he wouldn't look very hard. A placating gesture. I knew then that I couldn't rely on the police. They were bogged down in procedure. I had to do this myself. I was alone. I started digging. I went to Lily and Alex's penthouse apartment. Alex was at the office, naturally. The apartment felt cold, sterile, like a museum. No trace of Lily's warmth, just expensive furniture and empty spaces. I searched for the secret phone, the one that held the truth. I tore the study apart. Drawers emptied, shelves cleared. It was gone. Alex had covered his tracks. He was smart. I had underestimated, but even smart people make mistakes. They get arrogant. I found something else, something he missed, something hidden in plain sight. In the study, tucked inside a hollowed-out copy of The Art of War. Ironic. I found a key, a small brass key. It didn't fit any locks in the apartment. It looked like a safety deposit box key. Where would Alex keep a safety deposit box? Not at our family bank. Somewhere else, somewhere secret. It was a breadcrumb, the first breadcrumb in a trail leading to the truth. I turned my attention to the company's financials. I still had access, though Alex had tried to restrict it. He had changed the passwords, locked me out of the system. But I had built that system. I knew the back doors. He underestimated me again. I needed help. Someone specialized, someone relentless. I hired a forensic accountant, a sharp young woman named Sarah Jenkins. She had a reputation for being a pit bull. Meticulous. She tapped her pen rapidly when she analyzed data, a sign that she was onto something. "Find out where the money is going, Sarah," I told her. "Find out what he's hiding." She nodded, her eyes sharp, focused. "I'll find it, Mr. Vance. They always leave a trail." She started analyzing the data, peeling back the layers of deception. Alex was sophisticated. He had hidden the transactions behind a labyrinth of shell corporations. But Sarah was better. What she found made my blood boil. Money was missing. Huge sums of it. Siphoned off to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Alex was bleeding the company dry. He was stealing my legacy, my daughter's future. He wasn't just ambitious. He was a thief, a calculating, cold-blooded thief. And the amounts matched the bank statements Lily had mentioned. Tens of millions, but that wasn't the worst part. Sarah found something else. A complication. A betrayal that cut deeper. "Arthur," she said, her voice low, urgent, He didn't do this alone. Someone inside helped him. Someone high up. These transactions couldn't have been authorized without a second signature. I knew immediately who it was. Jonathan Hayes. Robert Chen's replacement. Young, ambitious, nervous, always sweating. I confronted Hayes in his office. He was pale. His hands trembled as he shuffled papers on his desk. "Jonathan," I said, my voice cold, hard. "I know what you did." He broke down, sobbing, pathetic. "Alex, he found out about my gambling debts," Hayes choked out, shame etched on his face. "Huge debts. He threatened to expose me.
To ruin me.
I had no choice. He made me sign the transfers. Blackmail. Alex was a predator. He preyed on weakness, on fear. The betrayal stung, but it also gave us another witness, another piece of the puzzle. But we still didn't have the whole picture. We needed to know who was pulling the strings, who was behind the offshore accounts. Sarah dug deeper. She found the name linked to the main account. The beneficiary, Marcus Blackwood. Who was he? I had never heard of him. Sarah tapped her pen rapidly on the desk. "Marcus Blackwood," she said, her voice low. "He has a history of fraud and embezzlement. He served time 5 years ago." Then she found the connection. The devastating connection. He's Alex's brother. They were working together. A family of vultures feeding on the carcass of my legacy. The betrayal was staggering. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the calculated destruction of everything I held dear. They had planned this from the beginning. The marriage, the infiltration of the company, the systematic dismantling of my life's work. Alex hadn't fallen in love with Lily. He had targeted her, used her as a pawn in his twisted game. Lily was just collateral damage. I had the motive, I had the means. Now I needed the proof. Proof that he tried to kill her. I took the information to Detective Miller. I spread the files across his cluttered desk. The offshore accounts. The connection to Marcus Blackwood. Hayes' confession. The staggering amount of stolen money. He stubbed out his cigar, his expression hardening. The skepticism was gone, replaced by a cold, hard interest. "This is motive, Vance," Miller said, leaning forward. "Strong motive, millions of dollars worth of motive. If Lily found out about this—" "She did find out," I interrupted. "That's why she was running. That's why she's in a coma. But it's not proof he caused the accident," Miller insisted. "It's circumstantial. We need something concrete. Something that ties him directly to the crash." He was right. I needed the smoking gun. Then came the twist. The breakthrough I desperately needed. If this story is keeping you hooked, drop a like. It was the phone call that changed everything. Miller called me. His voice urgent, tense. "Vance, you need to come down to the station," he said. "We have the full forensic report on the car." I rushed over, my heart hammering in my chest. Hope and dread warring within me. Miller slapped the file on the table, the sound echoing in the small interrogation room. The room was cold, the walls bare. "The brake fluid," he said, his voice grim, his eyes locked on mine. "It wasn't an accident. It was deliberately drained. The brake line was tampered with, cut cleanly. The air rushed out of my lungs. I couldn't breathe. I felt the room spin, deliberately drained, cut. Someone wanted Lily dead, and that someone was Alex. I knew it in my gut. Now I had proof. This wasn't an accident. It was attempted murder." Miller looked at me, his skepticism replaced by a cold, hard determination, the look of a predator who has caught the scent of blood. "Now we have a case," he said, the words hanging in the air, heavy with consequence. "Now we hunt." The investigation shifted gears. It was no longer a traffic accident. It was a criminal conspiracy. Miller put a surveillance team on Alex. 24/7, they tapped his phones, monitored his emails, watched his every move. The hunter had become the hunted. But Alex was smart, cautious. He knew he was being watched. He communicated through encrypted apps. He used burner phones. He didn't slip up. He was a ghost. We needed more. We needed to connect Alex to the tampered brake line. We needed proof that he was the one who crawled under that car and cut the line, or that he ordered it. Miller checked the security cameras in the parking garage of Lily and Alex's apartment building the night before the accident. The cameras were mysteriously disabled for exactly 45 minutes. Between 10:15 p.m. and 11:00 p.m. Coincidence? I didn't think so. That was the window. I decided to talk to the garage attendant, a young man named Liam. Nervous, jumpy, always avoiding eye contact. I found him in the small booth at the entrance. "Liam," I said, my voice low, "I need to know what happened the night of the accident." The cameras were down. He paled. His eyes darted around nervously. "I don't know anything, Mr. Vance. The system malfunctioned. Liam, my daughter is fighting for her life," I said, my voice raw with emotion. "If you know something, you have to tell me. Don't protect him." He hesitated. His hands trembled. He looked at me, seeing the pain in my eyes. He cracked. "He paid me," Liam whispered, shame etched on his face. $5,000. Cash. To turn off the cameras and take a long break. "Alex Thorne?" Liam nodded, tears welling in his eyes. "Did you see him do anything to the car?" I asked, my heart pounding. "No, sir, but he wasn't alone," Liam said, his voice dropping even lower. There was another man with him. Older, rough-looking. They left together. Marcus Blackwood. We needed to find Blackwood. Miller started digging into his associates. Criminals. Con artists. He found a name. Slick Ricky. A mechanic with a record known for making problems disappear. For a price. Miller tracked Ricky down to a greasy garage on the outskirts of the city. The smell of oil and sweat hung heavy in the air. Ricky denied everything. He claimed he didn't know Blackwood. Didn't know Alex. He was lying. Miller knew it. Miller bluffed. He told Ricky they found his fingerprints on the brake line. That Liam had identified him as the man with Alex. Ricky cracked. The color drained from his face. His hands started shaking. Okay. He confessed, his voice trembling. "I cut the line. Blackwood paid me 10 grand. He said the husband wanted it done. We had the confession. We had the connection. But we still needed to place Alex at the scene of the crash. We needed to prove he was there. I remembered the traffic cameras on the winding road to the lake house. A long shot. The road was remote. Dark, but what the try. Miller pulled the footage. We watched hours of grainy, rain-slicked video. The storm made visibility almost zero. And then we saw it. A dark sedan, headlights cutting through the storm. Following Lily's car, not too close, but keeping pace. A predator stalking its prey. We couldn't make out the license plate, but the car looked familiar. It looked like Alex's Tesla. He wasn't just trying to kill her. He was making sure the job was done. We checked Alex's whereabouts that night. He claimed he was at a business dinner at the Capitol Grill, but the restaurant confirmed he left early. At 9:30 p.m., hours before Lily's crash, he lied. The pieces were falling into place. The net was closing in. The tension mounted. Alex knew we were closing in. He started getting reckless, desperate. He tried to transfer the money from the offshore accounts, but we had frozen them. Sarah and Miller had moved fast. He was cornered, trapped, and a cornered animal is the most dangerous. We had another scare at the hospital. Nurse Maria, a kind, observant woman who had been taking care of Lily. She reported suspicious activity. She saw Alex lingering near Lily's IV drip late one night. When he thought no one was watching, he claimed he was just adjusting her blanket, checking on her. But Maria didn't believe him. She saw the look in his eyes, the cold calculation. She thought he was trying to tamper with her medication, to finish the job he started. We tightened security around Lily's room. A police officer stationed outside her door, 24/7. Alex was officially banned from the hospital. He came anyway, barging past the police officer, into Lily's room, his face contorted with rage. The mask was slipping, revealing the monster underneath. I was sitting by her bed, holding her hand. "You're ruining everything, Arthur," he hissed, jabbing a finger in my direction. His eyes were wild, desperate. "You're poisoning everyone against me." "You did this to yourself, Alex," I replied, my voice cold as steel. Unwavering, I stood up, placing myself between him and Lily, protecting her. I loved her, he insisted, his voice cracking with fabricated emotion. He even managed to squeeze out a tear, a masterful performance, but I saw the lie shimmering in his eyes, the desperation, the fear. You loved the money, I shot back. The power, and you were willing to kill her for it. We know about the breaks, Alex. We know about Ricky. He paled, a flicker of fear in his eyes. He knew he was caught. He lunged at me, his hands reaching for my throat. The monster unleashed. A strangled cry of rage escaped his lips. The police officer rushed in, tackling him to the ground. Security guards followed, pulling him away. He screamed threats and obscenities as they dragged him out in handcuffs. "This isn't over. Arthur, you'll pay for this. You'll all pay," he yelled, his voice echoing down the hallway. The mask was gone. The monster was exposed. But God's system is strange. When the truth came to light, my daughter's eyes also opened. It happened moments after they dragged Alex out. The room was quiet again, the chaos replaced by a sudden, profound silence. I was sitting close to her bed, her hand held tightly in mine. Eleanor was beside me, sobbing quietly. It was quiet, the silence broken only by the steady beep of the heart monitor. Suddenly, her fingers pressed against my palm, ever so lightly. A butterfly's wing beat, a faint squeeze. I froze, convinced I had imagined it. A reflex, a spasm. I looked at her face, my breath catching in my throat. Her eyelids fluttered, trembling. And then, slowly, agonizingly, her eyes opened. They were unfocused at first, cloudy with confusion, pain. Then they locked onto mine. Recognition flared in her gaze. "Dad," her voice was weak, raspy, broken, but it was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. A symphony of hope. Tears streamed down my face, blurring my vision. I couldn't speak. I could only feel. Eleanor let out a gasp. "Lily? Oh, Lily!" She reached for her, sobbing uncontrollably, her hands hovering over her fragile body, afraid to touch her, afraid she would break again. My soul felt as if it had shattered and been mended again, a broken vessel made whole. I clasped her hand tightly in both of mine, bringing it to my lips, kissing her fingers. "Daughter, you came back," I cried, my voice thick with emotion. "You saved your father from dying." We held each other, a family reunited, a bond unbroken by betrayal, a love stronger than death. Dr. Ramirez rushed in, alerted by the sudden change in Lily's vitals. She checked her pupils, her reflexes, her expression one of stunned disbelief. "This is remarkable," she murmured, shaking her head. "A miracle." Lily looked at me, her eyes clear now, filled with a pain that mirrored my own, and a fear that chilled me to the bone. She remembered everything, the crash, the betrayal, the darkness. "He tried to kill me, Dad," she whispered, the words heavy with the weight of betrayal. Her voice trembled, but her gaze was steady. "I know, sweetheart. I know. Alex." "He tampered with the brakes." Then she said something that confirmed everything. "I saw him, Dad," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "In the garage. Before I left. I heard a noise. I saw him near my car. With another man. Marcus Blackwood. I didn't understand then. But when the brakes failed, I knew that was it. The final nail in his coffin."
A direct testimony from the victim. An eyewitness. We had him.
The game was over. The next morning, the news exploded. Alex Thorne arrested for attempted murder, fraud, and embezzlement. Marcus Blackwood was arrested the same day, hiding out in a cheap motel. He turned on Alex immediately, offering to testify against him in exchange for a lighter sentence. There is no honor among thieves. The evidence was overwhelming. The foreign accounts, the confessions from Hayes, Liam, and Ricky, the traffic video, and now, Lily's testimony. But there was one more thing, the final twist, the ultimate betrayal. The investigators tracked down the safety deposit box, the one that matched the brass key I found in The Art of War. Hidden inside, they discovered a small, leather-bound ledger. Miller showed it to me. It was meticulous. Detail. Inside, our pictures were marked with red ink. Mine, Eleanor's, Lily's, X's drawn across our faces, with detailed notes that laid bare his sinister intentions, his plan, his endgame. He was planning to eliminate us all. One by one. A systematic extermination. Lily was just the first step. He wanted everything, and he was willing to destroy a family to get it. I saw him at the police station, behind the reinforced glass of the interrogation room, in handcuffs, his expensive suit replaced by an orange jumpsuit. His face was pale, his eyes hollow. The charm was gone, the arrogance erased. Defeated, I saw his hands clench into fists as his mask finally crumbled, revealing the abyss beneath, the emptiness, the darkness. And in that moment my grief turned into a cleansing fire, a righteous anger. I wanted to see justice done at the hands of the law. I wanted him to pay for what he did. I held my daughter's hand again, this time not lifeless, but warm and filled with life. She squeezed my fingers, a silent promise of hope. She was still weak, the road to recovery long and arduous, but she was alive. She was here. She was a survivor. My wife sat on the other side, her eyes closed in silent prayer, crying and thanking God that we were saved in time, that the truth came to light before it was too late. The wealth he was trying to steal no longer mattered. The company, the money, the power, it was all meaningless, ashes in the wind. The real wealth was these breaths, this bond, this love. We had survived the storm, battered and bruised, but together, stronger, our bond forged in fire. And when I saw him behind prison bars during the trial, I swore never again would betrayal enter our lives. Never again would I be so blind. He looked at me from the defendant's table, his eyes burning with an impotent rage, a caged animal. But he was powerless. He had lost everything, his freedom, his future, his mask, and we had gained everything that truly mattered. A year later, Lily came home. She still walked with a slight limp, a permanent reminder of the darkness she endured, a scar that told a story of survival, but her spirit was unbroken, her resolve stronger than ever. She was radiant, a warrior queen. We rebuilt our lives, piece by painful piece. I sold Vance Industries. I didn't need the legacy anymore. The empire I built felt tainted, stained with blood and betrayal. My legacy was my daughter, my family. We learned to trust again, to love again, to live again. But we never forgot the monster who almost destroyed us. The monster who came disguised as everything we ever wanted. The wolf in sheep's clothing. The devil in a $1,000 suit. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your time matters.